Something is about to happen to you tonight. And you can already feel it, can you not? There is a stirring somewhere beneath the surface of your awareness. A hum that does not belong to the refrigerator or the traffic outside or the low drone of the world doing what the world does. This is something else. This has been building for weeks, maybe months, maybe your entire life. And tonight, it reaches a threshold that cannot be ignored any longer. But here is what no one tells you about healing. It does not arrive the way you were taught to expect it. It does not come wrapped in light and accompanied by angelic music and immediate peace. Sometimes, especially for those who carry what you carry, healing arrives first as disruption, as a tremor in the field, as the strange sensation that everything you thought was solid is suddenly liquid, rearranging itself according to a blueprint you cannot yet see, but that your body already recognizes. And if you do not understand what is happening when that activation begins, you will do what most people do. You will resist it. You will tighten. You will interpret the dissolution as destruction. And you will try to hold together the very structure that needs to come apart. So before tonight unfolds the way it is going to unfold, you need to hear this, all of it. Not because these are just words on a screen, but because something in the architecture of this moment, the fact that you are here, that you pressed play, that you are still listening right now instead of scrolling past, that is not coincidence. That is coherence. That is your field already doing what it knows how to do, drawing you toward the information you need at the exact moment you need it. Welcome to Quantum Soul Meditations. Let us begin. You are not a solid thing. I know you know this intellectually. Atoms are mostly empty space. Matter is energy. The body is vibration. But knowing it in your mind and knowing it in yourself are two entirely different experiences. And the distance between those two knowings is where most human suffering lies. Your body right now in this very moment is a field. Not a metaphor for a field, an actual electromagnetic field generating measurable frequencies, producing coherent and incoherent patterns of energy that interact with every other field around you. Your heart alone generates an electromagnetic signal detectable several feet outside your body. Your brain produces oscillating waves that entrain with the rhythms of the earth itself. You are not in an environment. You are an environment, a living, pulsing, radiating architecture of frequency. And that architecture is not fixed. It is responsive. It changes based on what you think, what you feel, what you believe, and most importantly, what you are willing to release. This is where the concept of a quantum healing field stops being abstract and starts becoming the most practical thing you have ever encountered. Because a healing field is not something that descends upon you from somewhere else. It is not a gift bestowed by an external force. A healing field is what your own system generates when the interference patterns distorting your natural coherence finally begin to dissolve. You do not need to add healing to yourself. You need to remove what is preventing the healing that is already your default state. Let that land for a moment. You were born coherent. You were born whole. Every infant enters this world as a unified field of extraordinary intelligence. Every cell communicating with every other cell, every system synchronized, every frequency in harmony. And then life happened, not just the obvious traumas, not just the moments you can name and say, yes, that is where it broke, but the invisible ones too, the ones so subtle you never registered them as wounds at all. The moment you learned that love was conditional, the moment you understood that your worth was tied to your performance, the moment you felt the field of a parent's anxiety, and your tiny nervous system absorbed it like a sponge absorbs water, not because you chose to, but because that is what fields do. They entrain, they synchronize, and a child's field, wide open and utterly undefended, will match the frequency of whatever surrounds it. So you grew up carrying frequencies that were never yours. patterns of tension in your shoulders that belong to your mother's unspoken grief, a constriction in your throat that mirrors your father's swallowed rage, a heaviness in your chest that is the residue of generations of people who never had the language or the permission to feel what they felt. So they pressed it down and it calcified, and it passed through bloodlines like a silent inheritance no one ever discussed. This is not poetic language. This is biology. Epigenetics has confirmed what indigenous traditions have taught for thousands of years. That trauma is not merely psychological. It is physiological. It alters gene expression. It changes the way DNA is read and transcribed. It literally rewrites the body at the molecular level. And those rewrites do not stay contained within a single lifetime. They transmit. They carry forward. You are walking around right now with cellular instructions encoded by experiences you never personally had, responding to threats that no longer exist, bracing against impacts that landed on someone else's body in some other decade or some other century. And your system, brilliant as it is, has been doing its best with all of this. It has been compensating, adapting, building workarounds, creating coping mechanisms that were genuinely ingenious when they first formed. The dissociation that let you survive an overwhelming moment. The hypervigilance that kept you safe in an unpredictable household. The people pleasing that ensured you would not be abandoned. The emotional numbness that protected you from feeling what would have been too much to feel at 3 or 7 or 12 years old. These were not failures. These were masterpieces of adaptation. Your nervous system looked at an impossible situation and found a way through, and you should honor that. You should bow to the intelligence of the child you were who figured out how to survive. But here is the thing. You are not that child anymore. The threats have changed. The environment has changed. You have changed. And those brilliant adaptations that once saved your life are now running on autopilot in a context where they no longer serve you. They are like a security system designed for a house you moved out of 20 years ago, still triggered by every creak and shadow, still flooding your system with cortisol and adrenaline, still keeping you in a state of chronic low-grade emergency that your conscious mind has learned to call normal. If this is resonating with you, if something in these words is landing somewhere deeper than your thinking mind, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Quantum Soul Meditations so you do not miss what comes next in this journey. This is where it gets interesting, because your body knows this. At some level beneath your conscious awareness, your system knows that it is time. It knows that the old architecture has served its purpose, and that maintaining it is now costing more energy than it is saving. Your body is wise in ways your mind cannot fathom, and it has been sending you signals. Signals you may have been misinterpreting. The exhaustion that does not respond to sleep. The anxiety that arises without any identifiable trigger. The sudden waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere. The strange physical symptoms that no doctor can quite explain. The aches that migrate, the tension that shifts, the heaviness that lifts and returns in a different location, the vivid dreams, the disrupted sleep, especially waking between 2 and 4 in the morning, the feeling of being on the verge of something enormous without being able to name what it is. These are not signs that something is wrong with you. These are signs that something is right with you. These are the preliminary tremors of a healing field activating. Your system beginning the process of reorganization, starting to dismantle the old interference patterns so that your natural coherence can reassert itself. But this is crucial. This is the part that changes everything. If you do not understand what is happening, you will fight it. You will ask for something to make the symptoms stop. You will interpret the emotional waves as evidence of instability. You will see the disruption as breakdown rather than breakthrough. And in doing so, you will inadvertently reinforce the very patterns that are trying to release. The healing field requires your participation and your willingness. It will not force itself upon you. It cannot, because this is not something being done to you. This is something being done through you, and it requires your conscious cooperation. So let us talk about what a quantum healing field actually is in terms that are both scientifically grounded and spiritually honest. At the quantum level, reality does not behave the way your everyday experience suggests. Particles exist in superposition, meaning they hold multiple potential states simultaneously until the act of observation collapses them into a single measurable outcome. This is not speculation. This is one of the most rigorously tested and consistently confirmed findings in the history of physics. The observer effect is real. Consciousness, or at minimum the act of measurement, plays a role in determining which possibility becomes actual. Now, most physicists would caution against extrapolating quantum mechanics to the macro scale of human experience, and that caution is fair. But what is also fair is acknowledging that you are made of quantum stuff. Every atom in your body operates according to quantum principles. The biochemical processes that sustain your life depend on quantum tunneling, quantum coherence, quantum entanglement at the molecular level. The idea that these principles simply stop mattering at the scale of your lived experience requires a boundary that no one has ever definitively located. Where exactly does the quantum world end and the classical world begin? No one knows. And in that gap, there is room for something extraordinary. What if your consciousness, your focused awareness, your intentional observation of your own internal states functions as a kind of quantum measurement? What if the act of turning your attention inward with clarity and presence collapses certain probability waves within your own biology? What if healing, real healing, the kind that reorganizes you at the deepest level, is not a mechanical process but a quantum one, dependent not on what you do but on how you observe? This is not as far-fetched as it sounds. Research in psychoneuroimmunology has demonstrated that mental states directly influence immune function. Studies in heart coherence have shown that emotional states alter the electromagnetic output of the heart in ways that affect cellular regeneration throughout the body. Placebo research has revealed that belief alone can trigger measurable biological healing, not as a trick or illusion, but as a genuine physiological response initiated by consciousness. The mind does not merely reflect the body. The mind instructs the body, and the body listens. I want to pause here and ask you something. What is the one pattern you have been carrying that you know deep down is no longer yours to hold? Drop it in the comments below. Not for me, but for you. Because naming it is the first act of releasing it. When we talk about a quantum healing field activating, we are talking about a state in which your consciousness comes into a particular kind of alignment with your biology. A state where the observer and the observed enter coherence, where your awareness stops fighting your body's natural intelligence and instead amplifies it. This is not magic. This is physics operating at a level we are only beginning to understand. And tonight, something in the configuration of your awareness, something in the readiness of your nervous system, something in the accumulated momentum of every choice you have made that brought you to this exact moment is reaching critical mass. Pause and breathe into that. You did not arrive here by accident. Every single experience you have had, every heartbreak, every confusion, every dark night, every moment of inexplicable knowing has been building toward this. Not in a predetermined way, not as though you had no choice, but in the way that water finds its way downhill, not because someone mapped the route, but because the nature of water is to flow, and the nature of consciousness is to heal. And you have been flowing toward this moment for longer than you realize. Now let me tell you what typically happens when a healing field begins to activate. because forewarned is formed, and the difference between someone who moves through this process with grace and someone who gets stuck in the turbulence is almost always a matter of understanding. The first thing you may notice is amplification. Whatever you have been carrying becomes louder. The sadness you have been managing becomes a wave. The anger you have been suppressing rises to the surface. The grief you thought you had processed years ago returns with a freshness that is startling. This is not regression. This is not evidence that your healing is failing. This is the field illuminating what needs to be seen. Think of it like turning up the lights in a room you have been navigating in the dark. Suddenly you can see everything: the dust, the clutter, the things you shoved into corners and forgot about. The mess was always there. The light did not create it. The light revealed it. And revelation is the first step of release. The second thing you may experience is physical sensation. Your body stores everything, every unprocessed emotion, every incomplete stress response, every moment of freeze or flight that never fully resolved. All of it lives in your tissue, in your fascia, in the tension patterns of your musculature, in the holding patterns of your breath. When the healing field activates, the body begins to unlock these stored experiences. You may feel heat or cold moving through your body without any external cause. You may feel tingling, pressure, vibration. You may feel the urge to move, to shake, to stretch, to curl into a ball. You may feel pain arise in areas that have no structural explanation and then dissolve just as mysteriously as it appeared. This is somatic release. This is your body completing cycles that were interrupted, sometimes decades ago. Let it happen. Do not analyze it. Do not diagnose it. Just be with it. Your body knows what it is doing. The third phenomenon is what I would call temporal blurring. As the field reorganizes your system, your relationship with time becomes fluid. Memories may surface with an intensity that makes them feel present rather than past. You may feel simultaneously like the child who is wounded and the adult who is healing, occupying both time frames at once. You may lose track of hours. You may feel as though time is moving very slowly or very quickly. This is because healing does not happen in linear time. The body does not file experiences chronologically the way the mind does. The body files experiences by frequency, by resonance, by emotional signature. And when a healing field activates, it accesses these files not in the order they occurred, but in the order they need to be released. Trust the sequence. Even when it does not make sense to your rational mind, it makes perfect sense to the intelligence that is orchestrating this process. The fourth thing, and this is the one that catches most people off guard, is the dissolution of identity. You have built a self around your wounds. We all have. The stories you tell about who you are, why you are the way you are, what happened to you and what it means. These stories form the scaffolding of your identity. And when the energetic charge beneath those stories begins to dissolve, the stories themselves start to lose their grip. You may wake up one morning and realize that the narrative you have been telling yourself for 20 years no longer feels true. Not because you have replaced it with a better narrative, but because you have dropped beneath the level of narrative altogether into something more fundamental, more direct, more real. This can be disorienting. When the story of who you are starts to dissolve, there is a moment, sometimes a prolonged moment, where you do not know who you are. And in that not knowing, there is a kind of vertigo that the mind interprets as danger. But here is the real secret. That not knowing is not a problem to be solved. It is the portal. It is the gap between the old coherence and the new one. It is the space where transformation actually happens. Every caterpillar goes through a stage where it is neither caterpillar nor butterfly, but a kind of undifferentiated soup inside the chrysalis. And if you could ask that soup how it feels, it would probably say it feels like dying, because from the perspective of the caterpillar, it is dying, but from the perspective of the butterfly already encoded in the DNA, nothing is dying at all. Something is becoming. You are in that becoming right now, tonight, and the discomfort you may feel is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is the feeling of something going profoundly, irreversibly right. Tell me in the comments, what is the old version of you that you can feel dissolving right now? What identity are you ready to let go of? So what do you do with all of this? How do you participate consciously in a process that is largely happening beneath your conscious control? This is the practice. And it is simpler than you might expect, though simple does not mean easy. The first principle is presence. Not presence as a concept you think about, but presence as a felt experience in your body right now. Can you feel your hands? Not think about them, feel them. Can you feel the weight of your body against whatever surface is supporting you? Can you feel the temperature of the air against your skin? Can you feel the subtle rhythm of your own breathing without trying to change it? This is presence. This is the foundation upon which everything else rests, because the healing field operates in the present moment. It does not operate in your memories of the past or your projections of the future. It operates here, now, in the living tissue of this instant. And the more fully you can inhabit this instant, the more available you become to the intelligence that is trying to move through you. So right now, wherever you are, take a breath. Not a special breath, not a technique, just a real breath. The kind of breath you would take if you had just set down something very heavy that you had been carrying for a very long time. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your belly release. And as you exhale, let go of the need to understand what is happening. Just for this moment, just for this breath, let the understanding come later. Right now, just be here. Good. The second principle is willingness. Not willingness to feel good. Willingness to feel whatever is actually present. This is the distinction that separates genuine healing from spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing says, I will replace my pain with light. I will override my sadness with gratitude. I will think my way to a higher vibration. And there is a place for positive focus. There truly is. But it cannot be built on a foundation of avoidance. If you use positivity to suppress what is actually moving through you, you are not healing. You are adding another layer to the architecture of suppression, building a beautiful house on top of a fault line and wondering why it keeps cracking. Willingness means you are willing to feel the grief without needing it to transform into something else. Willing to feel the anger without needing to justify it. Willing to feel the fear without needing to immediately soothe it. Willing to feel the emptiness without needing to fill it. This is not masochism. This is not wallowing. This is the most courageous act a human being can perform. The act of being fully present with what is, without an agenda for what it should become. And here is what happens when you do this. When you bring pure presence and unconditional willingness to whatever is arising, the energy that was locked in the pattern begins to move. It begins to complete its cycle. It begins to discharge. Because every trapped emotion, every stored trauma, every frozen stress response is essentially energy that was mobilized but never expressed, never completed, never allowed to move through to its natural resolution. It is like a wave that was stopped mid-crest, frozen in your tissue, consuming enormous amounts of your vital energy just to maintain its suspended state. And when you finally give it permission to move, when you stop bracing against it and instead open to it, it does what energy always does when it is no longer constrained. It flows, it releases, it transforms. This is the quantum healing field in action at Quantum Soul Meditations. Not as something mystical happening to you from the outside, but as the natural consequence of your own consciousness coming into coherent relationship with your own stored experience. You are the healer. You are the healing. You are the field, not three separate things. One process viewed from three different angles. The third principle is trust, and this may be the hardest one of all, because trust asks you to surrender control, and for many of you, control is the last defense you have. Control is the strategy that says, if I can just manage everything, predict everything, prepare for everything, then nothing can hurt me. And that strategy worked in its way for a time, but it worked by keeping you in a perpetual state of contraction. And contraction is the opposite of healing. Healing requires expansion. Healing requires opening. Healing requires the terrifying willingness to not know what comes next, and to be okay with that not knowing. Trust does not mean believing that everything will work out the way you want it to. Trust means knowing that you are held by an intelligence larger than your personal mind, an intelligence that has been orchestrating the unfathomable complexity of your biology since before you took your first breath, the same intelligence that knows how to heal a cut on your skin without any conscious input from you, that beats your heart 100,000 times a day without you having to remember, that coordinates trillions of cellular processes simultaneously with a precision that makes the most advanced technology on Earth look primitive by comparison. That intelligence is not separate from you. It is you. It is the deepest layer of what you are. And when you trust it, when you stop trying to micromanage the healing process and instead allow it to unfold according to its own wisdom, things begin to happen that your rational mind would have said were impossible. Breathe into this. There is something else I need to share with you, and it concerns the timing of what is happening. You may have noticed that certain periods feel more charged than others. Certain nights feel different. Certain phases of the moon, certain alignments, certain collective energetic waves seem to create windows where transformation accelerates. And while the skeptical mind might dismiss this as superstition, there is actually a coherent framework for understanding it. Your biology is not isolated. You are embedded in fields within fields within fields. The electromagnetic field of the Earth, the gravitational fields of the moon and sun, the vast interstellar fields that permeate the galaxy. And these fields are not static. They fluctuate, they pulse, they cycle, and your body, exquisitely sensitive instrument that it is, responds to these fluctuations whether you are consciously aware of them or not. Research has shown correlations between geomagnetic activity and human cardiovascular events, between lunar cycles and sleep architecture, between solar activity and psychiatric admissions. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are a localized expression of it. And when the larger field enters certain configurations, it creates conditions more conducive to particular kinds of internal reorganization. Tonight is one of those windows, not because of any single astronomical event, but because of a convergence, a confluence of your personal readiness and the collective energetic moment. You can feel it. That is why you are here. That is why something in you said yes to this, said stay, said listen. Your field recognized the resonance before your mind could articulate it. Trust that recognition. It is one of the most reliable forms of knowing you possess. Now I want to take you deeper. I want to talk about what exists on the other side of this activation, because it is important that you have some sense of where this is leading. On the other side of this process, you do not become a different person. This is one of the great misunderstandings about healing and transformation. The mind imagines that healing means becoming someone new, someone better, someone without flaws or fears or shadows, but that is not what happens. What happens is that you become more fully yourself. The layers of conditioning, the borrowed frequencies, the inherited patterns, the defensive structures, all of these are not you. They are what accumulated on top of you. And as they dissolve, what remains is not a blank slate. What remains is an essence, a quality of being. a way of moving through the world that is unmistakably yours, and that you may not have had access to since you were very young, if ever. People on the other side of deep healing often describe it not as gaining something, but as remembering something, as though they had always known who they were, but had simply forgotten, and now the forgetting is lifting like fog burning off in the morning sun. There is a naturalness to it, an ease, not the ease of having no challenges, but the ease of meeting challenges from a place of wholeness rather than fragmentation. Your nervous system, no longer locked in chronic defense, begins to settle into a baseline of safety that allows for genuine rest, genuine connection, genuine creativity. Energy that was being consumed by the maintenance of old patterns becomes available for new purposes. You may find that you need less sleep yet feel more rested, that your thinking becomes clearer without effort, that your intuition sharpens, that synchronicities increase, not because the universe suddenly started paying attention to you, but because you stopped generating the static that was preventing you from noticing what was always there. Your relationships change, not because you force them to, but because you are no longer showing up as a defended fragment looking for completion in another defended fragment. You begin to show up as a whole being, and wholeness attracts wholeness. The relationships that were built on mutual wounding may fall away, and this can be painful. But what replaces them has a depth and authenticity that makes the old connections look like shadows on a wall. Your body changes. Chronic tension patterns release. Inflammation decreases. Digestion improves. The body, no longer diverting massive resources to maintaining a state of emergency, redirects that energy toward repair, regeneration, optimization. People often look physically different after deep healing, not because of any external intervention, but because the face, the posture, the eyes, the skin, all of these reflect the state of the internal field. When the field becomes coherent, the body follows, and perhaps most profoundly, your experience of reality itself changes. The world looks different when you are no longer viewing it through the filter of unprocessed trauma. Colors seem more vivid. Sounds seem more textured. The present moment, which once felt like a thin and anxious sliver between a regretted past and a feared future, expands into something spacious and rich and endlessly interesting. You discover that ordinary life, just the simple fact of being alive and breathing and witnessing the play of light on surfaces, is astonishing. It always was. You just could not see it through the noise. This is what is on the other side, not perfection, not transcendence, not escape from the human experience, but the full embodied, awake participation in the human experience that was always your birthright. And it begins tonight. It begins now. It begins with what is already happening in your field. As you listen to these words, let me guide you through something. This is not a meditation in the traditional sense. This is more like a conscious cooperation with what your system is already doing. You do not need to close your eyes unless you want to. You do not need to be in any particular position. You just need to be willing. Begin by noticing your breath, not changing it, just noticing it. Feel the air entering your body. Feel it leaving. Notice the pause at the top of the inhale. Notice the pause at the bottom of the exhale. In those pauses, there is stillness. And in that stillness, there is an intelligence that is older than your name, older than your story, older than every experience you have ever had. It was present before your first memory and will be present after your last thought. It does not need you to do anything. It just needs you to stop doing, stop managing, stop controlling. Stop trying to figure out what you should be feeling or whether you are doing this right. Now bring your attention to the center of your chest, not the surface. Go deeper. Feel into the space behind your sternum, the space where your heart beats. And as you rest your attention there, notice if there is a quality to that space. It might feel warm. It might feel heavy. It might feel tight or expansive or tender or numb. Whatever it feels like, let it be exactly what it is. Do not try to open your heart. Do not try to feel love or gratitude or any particular thing. Just be with what is actually there. And now, from that place, from the center of your chest, silently ask a question. Not with your mind, with your heart. Ask your body, what are you ready to release? And then wait. Do not think about the answer. Let the answer come as sensation, as emotion, as image, as knowing. It may come immediately, or it may come later tonight as you sleep. It may come as tears, as heat, as a sudden memory, as a deep exhale that seems to come from somewhere ancient. However it comes, receive it. Welcome it. It has been waiting for this invitation for a very long time. Stay with this for as long as it needs. There is no rush. The field does not operate on a schedule. It operates on readiness. And you are ready. You have been ready for longer than you know. As you sit with whatever is arising, I want to share one more thing with you. One more piece of understanding that may serve you in the hours and days ahead. Healing is not linear. The mind wants a straight line from broken to fixed, from wounded to whole, from suffering to peace. But that is not how living systems reorganize. Living systems heal in spirals. You will revisit themes. You will encounter layers. You will have days where you feel like you have made tremendous progress and days where you feel like you are back at the beginning. You are never back at the beginning. Even when it feels identical to something you have felt before, you are meeting it from a different place. You are meeting it with more awareness, more capacity, more presence. The spiral may bring you over the same territory, but each pass is at a higher altitude. Each pass reveals something the previous one could not. So be patient with yourself. Be extraordinarily, radically, almost absurdly patient with yourself. You are undertaking one of the most profound things a human being can undertake. The conscious reorganization of your own field. The deliberate participation in your own evolution. This is not a weekend workshop. This is not a quick fix. This is the great work of a lifetime. And it deserves your patience, your compassion, and your unwavering commitment. And you are not doing it alone. Even though this may feel like the most solitary journey imaginable, even though no one else can do this work for you, you are held. You are held by the field itself, by the vast intelligence that permeates every atom of existence. You are held by everyone who has ever walked this path before you. Every mystic, every healer, every ordinary person who found the courage to face themselves and emerge transformed. Their healing is part of the field too. Their breakthroughs made yours possible. And your healing, the healing that is activating in you tonight, will make someone else's possible tomorrow. This is how it works. This is how it has always worked. Each person who heals shifts the field for everyone. You are not just healing yourself. You are healing the lineage that lives in your cells. You are healing the future that has not yet been born. You are healing the collective field of human consciousness itself. This is not grandiosity. This is physics. This is the nature of interconnected fields. When one node in a network shifts its frequency, the entire network responds. Consider sharing this video with someone you know who is in the middle of their own unraveling right now. When you send this to them, you are not just passing along a video. You are extending the coherence of your own field into theirs, creating a resonance between two healing systems that amplifies the process for both of you. That single act of sharing becomes part of the energetic ripple that shifts the collective field. So feel the weight of that. Feel the beauty of it. You sitting wherever you are, listening to these words, breathing your breath, feeling your feelings. You are participating in something that matters far beyond the boundaries of your individual life. And that is not pressure. That is permission. Permission to take this seriously. Permission to prioritize this. permission to give yourself fully to this process without apology or justification. Tonight, as you move through the hours ahead, you may feel the activation intensify. You may feel waves of emotion. You may feel physical sensations that are unfamiliar. You may dream vividly. You may wake in the night with a clarity that is almost startling. Whatever happens, remember what you have heard here tonight on Quantum Soul Meditations. Remember that disruption is not destruction. Remember that dissolution is not death. Remember that the caterpillar does not die in the chrysalis. It transforms. And remember that you are not broken. You were never broken. You were carrying patterns that no longer serve you. And tonight those patterns begin to release. Let them go. Not with force, not with effort. With the same effortless willingness with which you let go of an exhale. You do not have to push the breath out. You just stop holding it in. That is all. Release is the end of the grip. The moment you realize that what you thought was protecting you was actually imprisoning you. And you simply open your hand. Open your hand tonight. Open your chest. Open the places in you that have been locked and guarded and defended for so long that you forgot they were closed. Not all at once. Not more than you can handle. Your system will regulate this. It knows exactly how much to release and when. Your job is simply to stay present, to stay willing, to stay trusting. And if it becomes too much, if at any point the intensity exceeds your capacity, come back to the simplest thing. Come back to your breath. Come back to the feeling of your body against the surface beneath you. Come back to the present moment. The present moment is always safe. It is only the mind's projection into past and future that creates the sense of danger. Here, now, in the actual living present, you are okay. You are more than okay. You are exactly where you need to be doing exactly what you need to be doing. This is the truth that most people miss. Healing is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. It is not a destination you arrive at. It is a process you participate in. And participation does not require perfection. It does not require expertise. It does not require special abilities or advanced spiritual development. It requires only what you have right now: presence, willingness, breath, the courage to feel what is real. You have all of those things. You have always had them. And tonight, they are enough. They are more than enough. They are everything. So as we draw this to a close here at Quantum Soul Meditations, I want to leave you with something to carry with you. Not as a concept to think about, but as a frequency to embody. You are the field. You are not in the field. You are not affected by the field. You are not trying to access the field. You are the field, the healing intelligence that orchestrates the regeneration of 100 billion cells every day, the awareness that witnesses your thoughts without being your thoughts, the presence that remains constant beneath every changing experience. That is you, not the story, not the identity, not the roles you play or the masks you wear or the defenses you have built. Those are temporary structures, useful sometimes, necessary sometimes, but not you. You are the field. And the field is already whole, already healed, already coherent, already vibrating at the frequency of everything you have been seeking. You do not need to become it. You need to stop pretending you are not it. Tonight, the pretending gets a little harder to maintain. The coherence gets a little harder to ignore. The truth of what you are gets a little closer to the surface, and all you have to do is let it. Let it breathe. Trust and know that you are held. If this has moved something in you, if you felt even a flicker of recognition in these words, that flicker is not coming from me. It is coming from you. It is your own knowing reflected back to you in a form you could receive. Leave a word in the comments below. Just one word. Whatever word arose in you as you listened. Do not think about it. Just let it come. That word is a marker, a time stamp in your transformation. And when you come back to it months from now, you will be astonished at how far you have traveled. Subscribe to Quantum Soul Meditations if you feel called to, not as an obligation, but as an act of intention, a way of saying this: I am choosing to stay in this field. I am choosing to continue this process. I am choosing myself. And with that, I release these words into the space between us and trust that they will land wherever they need to land, in whatever way they need to land, at whatever depth you are ready to receive them. Your healing field is activating. It has already begun. You felt it before you pressed play. You will feel it long after these words end. It is not something that is happening to you. It is something that is happening as you, the most natural thing in the world, the most profound thing in the world, and it is yours. It was always yours. Go gently tonight. Be kind to whatever arises. And remember, you are not broken. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are a field of infinite intelligence in the process of remembering itself.